coming back for seconds on Frankenstein. I didn't create a script or anything like that. I just thought. And that's how I intend to do this. I don't want to put together scripts, and I don't want to do anything like that. But I could have done a much better job had I thought about it a little bit. And what I should have done was synthesize a little bit. There are two issues that book addresses: freedom and privacy. Took me a second. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Freedom, free will, and privacy. The created, and that's how I'm going to refer to the creature. I don't like referring to him as the creature. It's not his fault. Victor brought him into the world. Victor ran away. Victor was frail. It's not the monster's fault. The monster's not a monster. The monster's only a monster from our perspective. 8-foot tall, sewn together guy. We think of him as a monster. He's not a monster. He's the created. And he does essentially the best he can. I mean, he's a perpetrator for sure. You can't have him around. He's at one time maybe, but he hates too much and he kills. So to refer to him as the created is not to let him off the hook. But what is it about freedom, and what is it about privacy? Does freedom, to be free, do you need privacy? Now I would say yes. That's the answer to that. And so what is exactly the problem here? The created is always watching the creator. So as science produces technology is then employed by politicians primarily. So it's employed by everybody else, but primarily it's employed by politicians, and you can see that now through the manipulation of the news cycle. How do you create an image? How do you create an image well, so that it's effective, so that regardless of what the truth is, the perception is what's important. So Victor Frankenstein is a metaphor for science. Science takes away our freedom. Science takes away our privacy. While I'm talking here, when I upload this, there might be somebody who decides to, take my personal information off the computer because I'm not completely up to date. It is completely up to date. But the fact is that all of this technology jeopardizes my security, period, and will always jeopardize it. I've had to shut down, as a lot of people have. I've had to terminate accounts because they've been broken into, and that will continue. There's no way out of it. Victor Frankenstein never knew when he looked up from his work or from a murdered loved one, whether the created would be observing him through a window. I mean, the two most unnerving examples, of course, were just before he tore up the female that he was building. Um, After looking up and seeing the created in the window, looking at him, watching him, anticipating him finishing. Then, of course, the second was as Elizabeth lay dead, strangled on her bed, wedding bed. Victor looks up and he sees the created in the window smiling, smiling, and pointing at Elizabeth. Um, there's no security, no safety, no privacy. He couldn't experience joy. He couldn't experience grief without being observed by the created. No escaping, not even at the North Pole. So so with this particular book, you have the metaphor for science, and the reason is because science is a destroyer. I think a scientist would tell you that they're a creator, but in many ways they're a destroyer. Science creates the technology that can move human beings from here to there very easily, which then brings species into new habitats, which then run riot. Business gets involved, can intentionally move species from one place to another, and then a hurricane hits in Florida, and now you have constrictors all over the place. And people leave their goldfish go in lakes, and the goldfish decimate the lakes. And you have Asian carp and snakeheads and clams, destructive clams, stink bugs, destroy your furnace. This is all the result of being able to move one thing from one place to another. And of course, not thinking for 2 seconds what the consequences are. Just not. So what is the issue? The issue is knowledge, I think. Um, and the book, and Frankenstein, I think, illustrates that at a certain point, that really the problem is not so much the tech as the knowledge that leads to the tech. And of course, we grow up and we're told knowledge is power. You want knowledge. Knowledge is a good thing. Science doesn't mess around, man. I mean, it doesn't make stuff up. Verifies things and passes it on. And if it doesn't pass muster, then it goes away. So knowledge is referred to directly in the book because in order to begin the process of creating the female, creating the woman, the mate for the created, he talks about going to England. And the reason he talks about going there is because that is where the newest information is coming from that could be helpful to him. He's already done it, right? I mean, it's in the second year of having created life. Why does he need the English? Why does he have to travel to England? Why does he have to do that for their information? He has the information. No, since he employed that information, that knowledge, to create his masterpiece, more knowledge has been produced. And he's not interested in just creating a life. He's interested in creating a life using the most recent knowledge. He's not going to use old tech. He's going to use new stuff. So off he goes. And he does his work there. He doesn't go and get it and bring it back. He goes and he stays and he does it there. What is the alternative? We're raised, if you don't know it, you don't respect it. Someone would ask me, how do you know that this is the case with Frankenstein? How do you know? You don't have a degree in literary criticism. You don't have a degree in English. You don't have a degree in anything that would indicate that I should listen to you. You do not have knowledge. So we're reducing everything to knowledge, reducing everything to science. If it isn't scientific, it's not legitimate. Which is why it's so fascinating that it was written by Mary Shelley. She was not a scientist. And of course, she's hanging out with poets. And poets do not bring knowledge into the world. They don't. Artists do not bring knowledge into the world. Authors don't. Philosophers don't. Religious thinkers don't. You can't prove any of it. So is it important? Is there anything important about that? And of course, the entire book is based on the consequences of not having joy, not having an outlook on life that is accepting. Driving away that which is different, that which is unusual. Not just driving away, but being afraid and driving it away. Thereby putting an exclamation point on the fact that you, as the other, are horrifying. I mean, even Victor runs out. I mean, he should have known, but he did not. He knew the knowledge. He knew the technique. But when the created stood up, sat up, moved, he didn't have knowledge anymore. He did not know what he was looking at. Prior to that, he was looking at a pile of meat that he was trying to animate. After that, he's looking into the eyes of a living thing. And he doesn't understand it. He has no basis to interpret what he's looking at. And since he is all about the science, he panics and runs away. He doesn't address it. He doesn't stand up to it. I think science does that all the time. We can manipulate life, we can control life, but the second we get into anything about why we ought to or why we ought not to do something, why we should do it, why we should not do it, scientists are essentially useless. But we don't trust the poets either. We've allowed the poets and the authors and musicians and artists to be undercut. We don't trust them. We don't think that they can conceive of the world in such a way that they can act as a guide for us. Only science can act as a guide. Science is a crappy guide. It has a tendency to pass out a lot, and it's frail. I mean, throughout this entire book, he was kept alive by everybody around him. He was kept alive by his father. He was kept alive by Elizabeth, his friend, Henry. Victor had to be propped up. in many ways, is useless. He created this massive problem and he's completely useless in dealing with it. And he eventually tries to turn it over to somebody else. And that person is in a boat at the North Pole with a whole bunch of people trying to get him to go home when he gets half a chance because he led him into an absolutely ridiculous situation. The captain, who befriended Victor Frankenstein. Victor saying to him, go get my mistake. Go fix it. Well, this guy created his own mistake, right? I mean, he's going into the North Pole for some reason. He dragged all these people with him who thought it would be, magnificent to go. And of course, Victor Frankenstein makes that argument. Be a man. Be more than a man. Don't run away when things get, things get tight. This is the guy who continuously runs away. Now, it looks like he's chasing the monster, but really the monster is leading him, the created. If the created realizes that Victor has fallen behind, he leaves signs for him so he can keep up. Just guides him along, leads him. Okay. I guess that's the nature of it. You think about it, you put it away for a while, you think about it. And I think that's how I'm going to approach this. With the computer in front of me, I can just turn it on. I point over here because, that's where the mouse is. It's over here. Can't see that. There. Yeah. The mouse would be there. Or the on-off button. Speaking of, I don't think I could show it when I was using the phone. But there, and you can see it, there are the leaves that I had mentioned on there. And the phone was better at the crosshatch, but the crosshatch is on top. This, of course, is my Dr. Grabo, as you can plainly see. I can't decide if it's right. I don't think it's right. It's got leaves on it. Leaves don't seem to make any sense with respect to me, and it's not sized right. I mean, I've got a big head. Yeah, I'm looking at a big hairy head. Glasses don't go straight across; kind of go on an angle. One eye's round, one eye looks like a football. It's a little too elegant, you know. I don't think that's the pipe. I think I might have to look into something rusticated and maybe black, silver band on it or something that I can chew on and it would look right on my face. So I guess there's the second pipe, the new pipe out there. To find the pipe that fits my face. With no leaves on it. I don't think I like the leaves. I can't find Dracula. Don't think I want to go that way anyway. It's too easy. Peterson's has them. So eventually I will. I like those. I think they're neat. Love the stems. I think the stems are cool. So yeah, it's a matter of time. I don't think I need to look there. I don't know where to look. I might go with Foucault. Tell you the truth. particular philosophy book uh, that he has. And it might be the way to go, given the conversation about Frankenstein. Frankenstein's about power, and Foucault talked about the network of power, the flow of power, how power can accumulate here and there, and the consequences of it. And of course, in the political world right now, you see that. You see the adjustment of power. Power is flowing in slightly different ways. Those who want to be insulated are making certain types of arguments and trying to look inward instead of outward, and so you have to talk about the world in a certain way. You have to move power in a certain way. That we're seeing that solid example of that in Europe and the United States anyway. So, not judging it, but it might be interesting to look at it. So maybe I'll go with Foucault. There's a particular book. It's on the shelf. I won't go grab it right now. I'll pull it down, start to look at it. It's got a pipe on the cover. So, all right. Well, just thinking some more about Frankenstein and the nature of my pipe. Yeah. Okay. Well, moving this over and turning it off.